Hi, welcome to class. So what we did today in class, we first went over our question of the day for 1-12 because I wanted to make sure you got the correct vocabulary word. The question of the day was, what is a caliphate? A caliphate is a leader of the Muslims that started after Muhammad died. And the reason that's important is because we are going to cover that word today in class. Please just don't forget to do the quote. I'm not going over that because it's your own personal feeling of how it makes you feel. Um, but please just make sure you have questions of the day. I am slowly starting to take off more points for people that are just writing silly things. Most of these questions, if you don't know what it is, you can Google it. So please, if you don't know an answer, copy and paste it into Google and see what it pops up. But that again is for 1-12. So today in class, what we did assignment, how did early divisions create identity in Islamic caliphates? So we first had a warm-up question, and this is a personal question, so there's no right or wrong answer. That is, what is something your community has trouble agreeing on? So this class talked about things like we can't agree on our likes and differences, politics, religion, money, that these are a few of the things that people in a community tend to argue. We then went down. There are two different examples. So there's one called the jizya tax, and then the Sunni and Shia split. So for both of these two examples, we're answering this question that what are two identities that are being created? Identities just means like two groups of people. For example, in politics, that are big issue is politics, and it divides people into Republicans and Democrats. So when you read this, trying to figure out what are those two identities being created, and then in the future, what outcomes do you see happening because of this divide? For example, in America, we have Republicans and Democrats. In our one class, kind of discussed that we're afraid because we're getting further and further divided, that it's going to create a lot of fighting, more so than what we already see now. So for the first one, for the jizya tax, the one identified was Muslims versus non-believers, that those are the two identities, that either you were Muslim or Christian or Jewish, that you were a non-believer. And then possible outcomes, again, this is a personal answer. Different answers students came up with in the last class was that this is going to further hatred towards one another because non-believers refuse to be Muslim and they have to pay money. That's going to cause a lot of hatred, that just because you're Christian, a lot of people are not going to like the fact that they still have to pay money. It's going to lead to possible fighting. The reason people thought that was in the source, if they refuse to pay the tax, seek Allah's help and fight them. So people aren't going to want to pay a tax. So those non-believers are going to maybe have to go into fighting. The biggest one was converting, which we talked about last week in one of our classes, that with the jizya tax, it's going to force a lot of people into converting into Islam because people are not going to want to pay money. So then we go down to our second example. This one was pretty straightforward. Again, same question in the yellow box, that what are the two identities? And this one was talking about Sunni versus Shia. Possible outcomes, again, are probably going to be war and fighting. That if you read through source C, it talks a lot about assassinations, murder, led to fighting in different wars, that these two groups, when they split, debating on who should be the leader after Muhammad died, it led to a lot of fighting, lots and lots of fighting. Okay, and then the last part is your part. Please reminder that this is worth more points because I'm asking you to do it on your own and self-reflect. That many of you are still getting zeros on this. You're doing the top part because you're copying, and that's fine. But the bottom part is worth more points. So please don't forget to do this bottom part. But this one is on you. You're to answer this question, that how does separating people into groups cause issues? So please write a full paragraph. You are allowed to talk about America. That if you want to talk about America for a little bit, about division and separating groups in America, you are welcome to it. Or just simply talk about these two sources, that you're going to talk about Sunni versus Shia, the non-believers versus the Muslims, and talk about those two divisions. So again, answering this question, how does separating people into groups cause issues? Once you do that, turn it in. Quick reminder, grading period ends this Friday, so please make sure you check and get your grades. brought up. All right, thank you.